Hi, so let's get to the work of dragging some images around. In detailed drawing, which is where I'm going to detect my touches and move the drawing view's self, so to speak, I've added a property, a CG point, called touch offset. The CG points are usually used to determine an XY coordinate, but they can also represent a vector. Any kind of thing where you have two floats is a CG point. So a vector fits that bill very nicely. So to allow the drawing of view, we're going to override two delegate methods that are on UI view called touches began with event and touches moved with event. There's also a third delegate method called touches ended with event, but it turns out we really don't need that one. In touches began, we're going to set up our offset vector. The first thing we need to do, and we'll get rid of this NSLog statement here, that was for me to debug. The first thing we're going to do is touches is an NS set, and it has a count. It is the count of unique touches within the view. Touches, the set of touches is the set of the number of fingers touching the view and the points upon which they're touching. So all we want here is one finger to be touching the view. So first we just wrap everything in a nice if statement that counts the touches. If there's only one touch in the set, then we can get touches in the object to get the unique touch out of the set, and that is a UI touch. Then we set up a point, which is the location of that touch within the view. So it's a CG point make touch location in view self X and location in view self Y. So this is a CG point set up with an X and a Y coordinate. Now we have the actual location within the view upon which the touch occurred. Now we need to get the offset between that location and the origin of the view. Well, the origin of the view in bounds coordinates is 0, 0. So we don't need to subtract the origin. It's just a CG point make touch location X, touch location Y. And this is the offset. So now when we move our finger, we'll apply that offset to make a new frame for the actual view. So again, we check to see that the touches count is still 1. We get any object then from the touch, which is the unique touch in that set. Then we have a new frame, and we're just assigning that with the contents of the current self frame. And then we're just going to alter the origin X and the origin Y. And the alteration is to add the touch location currently minus the offset, X and Y. And that will get us where we need to be. And then finally, and this is the dirty little secret, moving a view inside of another view is as simple as resetting its frame. So we have a new frame. We just assign self.frame that new frame, and that will actually move the view. We can do this in response to a timer event off of NSTimer. We can do this just to move views around. And remember, controls are views. We can move controls. We can do anything we want. So drag and drop is really pretty simple if you think about it that way. So now when we run our app, and oh, by the way, this happens on detailed drawing, so that when we look at a part, we'll actually be able to draw this around too, because this is using detailed drawing as well. If we wanted to constrain it so that we could only draw the part, or only move the part in arrange assembly, then we would need to, one way to do that would be to create a category on detailed drawing plus movement, let's say. And then in that category, override the touches moved, touches began, touches ended if you needed it, and so forth. So now let's go back and look at our assemblies, and let's build house 1. So house 1 is a very small house. Let's say it's 1 square. We'll add that. And then 1 triangle. So PN002. 1 triangle for the roof. We'll add that. And we see that we have 1 PN001, 1 PN002. When we click Arrange, we see our triangle and our square. So this is the main body of the house. and then this is the roof. And we can see that our touches are moving these around. They move smoothly. And the first object drawn is going to be over the second object drawn. So we have that issue to contend with. We could actually, on touches began, get the view and then move it to the front. So that would be another way to handle that. So now let's go back and let's go to our house 2. This is a bigger house. Let's say that this is PN001, our square. And let's say that this house has 3 squares. We'll add those. And then PN002 has 2 triangles, and we'll add those. And now when we click Arrange, yep, that's our counted set. When we click Arrange, we've got our components, and we'll drag them to where they need to be. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then we can put our roof on, and there we go. So now, this is not just useful for an academic reason. We can imagine that these could be sprites in games that we can move around using our finger. Let's say that we wanted to go back and recreate Atari Pong. We could do that by having the user be able to move paddles on the view and constrain them to only move in the Y direction, let's say up and down, or the X direction only, and then move our ball in such a way that it bounces off the edges and also bounces off the paddles if they're present. It could also be mobs in an adventure game as sprites. And so there are many, many applications for being able to not only move sprites or move images or UI views with touches, but also to be able to move them, say, using a timer, or move them in response to some other thing that has happened in your application. And we can see just by the fact of touches moved or the being able to just reset the frame on a view, which, by the way, also works with the UI image view. You can reset the frame on an image view. We can get some nice, simple animation effects very easily using 2D graphics in iOS. Thank you very much.